If it were just simply getting into the chamber, we could do that. It's not like just treasure hunting where you go in and consider taking care of the objects that are beyond this wall.
Ron Wyatt, a nurse anesthetist by profession, has achieved something extraordinary. Despite not being a trained archaeologist or scientist, he has unearthed nearly a dozen artifacts, landmarks, and sites that many experts have searched for in vain. Among his impressive discoveries is the tomb of Moses, a figure of immense significance in religious history. What sets his discovery of Moses' tomb apart from his other findings? What evidence does he provide for this groundbreaking revelation? Join us as we unveil the discovery of Moses' tomb, which has been sealed for 2,000 years. Ron Wyatt and the search for Moses' tomb. Ronald Eldon Wyatt, better known as Ron Wyatt, was an American nurse anesthetist and an enthusiastic amateur archaeologist. He claimed to have made nearly 100 discoveries related to biblical archaeology. Among his most notable claims is that he found the burial site of Moses. Moses is a monumental figure in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, known for leading the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt and receiving the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai. The story of the Exodus and Moses' life has fascinated believers across these religions for thousands of years. Despite Moses' significant role in history, the exact location of his tomb remains one of the Bible's greatest mysteries. Researchers have been on a relentless quest to find Moses' final resting place for centuries. Ron Wyatt, just like many other archaeologists, believed that Moses was buried near Mount Nebo, a site in modern-day Jordan. According to the Bible, Moses climbed Mount Nebo to view the Promised Land, which God had promised to the Israelites. After seeing this land, the Bible states that Moses died there. Wyatt was convinced he had discovered this significant burial site around Mount Nebo. The Bible does not specify the exact location of Moses' burial, only that it was in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor. Tradition holds that Moses ended up on the other side of the valley and died there on Mount Nebo. So, could Wyatt have uncovered a missing piece of the biblical narrative? Despite Wyatt's claims of finding not only Moses' tomb but also other significant biblical sites, he did not provide enough solid evidence for other experts to verify his discoveries. When explorers claim to have found important sites or ancient artifacts, they must present clear, verifiable proof. This might include artifacts, detailed maps, photographs, or scientific tests that can be independently confirmed. Wyatt did not supply sufficient evidence of this nature. Professional archaeologists have meticulous methods for studying ancient sites. They dig carefully, maintain detailed records, and use scientific tools to analyze their findings. Wyatt's approach did not always adhere to these rigorous standards, making it difficult for other experts to trust his conclusions. As a result, many professional archaeologists and scholars scrutinized Wyatt's work and found it lacking in credibility. They found many problems with Wyatt's claims. For instance, they pointed out that he lacked proper evidence, such as artifacts from the site that could be verified. Additionally, they noted several mistakes in his research and highlighted that he often didn't follow the correct procedures for archaeological study. Due to these issues, many experts criticized his work. Ron Wyatt isn't the only one who has claimed to have found Moses' tomb. Over the years, several religious believers, archaeologists, and scientists have come forward, each boasting of discovering this elusive biblical resting place. Among them is Josh Gates, who has presented perhaps the most convincing argument since Wyatt's claims. Josh Gates's quest for Moses' tomb. In a 2022 episode of his show Expedition Unknown, archaeologist Josh Gates and his team embarked on a quest to trace Moses' journey from Mount Sinai deep into the Israeli desert, hoping to locate his tomb and uncover artifacts. They also explored the Sea of Galilee in their search. During a sonar mapping of the lake bed, Gates and his team detected a massive anomaly, a cone-shaped structure rising over 30 feet high and stretching 200 feet wide from the sediment. Initially thought to be a natural formation, scuba divers later revealed it to be a deliberate arrangement of boulders, stacked in a specific pattern by human hands long ago. The sheer size and scale of this underwater structure were unprecedented in archaeological excavations beneath the sea. Composed of over 60,000 tons of massive basalt boulders, its construction would have demanded an extraordinary effort by an advanced ancient civilization. The discovery left the team stunned. Using seismic imaging technology, they meticulously mapped out the strange monument. Their analysis unveiled an astonishing revelation. This man-made structure dates back more than 4,000 years to the Bronze Age, aligning with the biblical timeline of Moses' life. Upon its discovery, Gates proposed that this could be compelling archaeological evidence linked directly to the legendary tale of Miriam's well from the Old Testament book of Exodus. According to this ancient scripture, Miriam's well was a miraculous rock formation that miraculously accompanied and provided water to the Israelites during their arduous 40-year journey through the Sinai desert following their liberation from Egyptian slavery. The account further details that when Miriam, Moses, and Aaron's older sister passed away, the magical well suddenly ceased to flow. However, the absence of definitive inscriptions, hieroglyphics, or artifacts in Hebrew or Semitic languages found alongside the monument complicates archaeologists' and scholars' ability to conclusively link it to the Exodus narratives, at least not yet. Moreover, if Miriam's well is indeed connected to both Moses' story and Miriam's passing, why would it be submerged in the Sea of Galilee when Miriam's last moments occurred elsewhere at Kadesh? This discrepancy warrants caution and measured skepticism before confidently identifying this as the site of Miriam's well mentioned in the Old Testament. Further excavation and analysis are necessary to uncover more evidence. Additionally, the diverse accounts, traditions, and viewpoints across different major religions add layers of complexity to this remarkable discovery, further complicating its interpretation and significance. Rabbi Schneersons and Moses' burial site. Another compelling assertion of discovering Moses' burial site comes from the late Rabbi Mendel Schneerson. As the esteemed leader of the Chabad Lubavitch Hasidic movement, Rabbi Schneerson reportedly claimed to have visited Moses' tomb during a trip to Egypt in the 1980s. His reputation as a revered religious figure in the Jewish community lent significant weight to his claim, capturing widespread attention among his followers and other enthusiasts of biblical archaeology eager to understand his methods. Regrettably, there is scant documentation or tangible evidence to substantiate Rabbi Schneerson's purported discovery. He did not provide specific details or proof to bolster his assertion, leaving many inquiries unanswered. Yet one intriguing aspect lends credibility to his claim. Rabbi Schneerson's reported visit to the tomb aligns closely with various medieval Jewish traditions that identify Mount Nebo in present-day Jordan as Moses' resting place. However, these traditions rely predominantly on religious texts rather than empirical archaeological findings. Similar to Jewish tradition, local beliefs in regions across the Middle East, such as Egypt, Jordan, and Israel, also assert specific locations for Moses' tomb. These beliefs are deeply entrenched in cultural and religious heritage, passed down through generations. Nevertheless, these claims primarily stem from folklore and religious convictions, rather than historical or archaeological validation. In Egypt, various sites are revered by locals who believe them to be Moses' burial place. One prominent location is Mount Sinai in the Sinai Peninsula, where tradition holds that Moses received the Ten Commandments. Besides Mount Sinai and Mount Nebo in Jordan, different places are also regarded as Moses' tomb according to local customs. These include spots in the Jordan Valley and areas near Mount Nebo. In Jordan, communities have constructed shrines or monuments at these sites, attributing them with great significance to Moses' life and legacy. In Israel, there are also several contenders for Moses' burial site. One is near Jericho, where it is believed Moses died and was buried directly by God. Another site is in Nablus, located in the West Bank, where tradition designates a specific tomb to Moses. The existence of these conflicting locations raises questions about which one is authentic. Why does one tradition pinpoint Mount Nebo, while another identifies areas surrounding it? rather than the mount itself. Despite the widespread acceptance of these local traditions and legends, there is a notable absence of historical or archaeological evidence to substantiate claims about Moses' tomb. The biblical narrative surrounding Moses' death and burial is vague and lacks specific details regarding the location of his tomb. Changes in the landscape over time and the scarcity of reliable historical records further complicate efforts to verify these traditions. Unveiling Moses' hidden burial. In Deuteronomy, Moses' pivotal role is underscored not only indirectly through the centrality of his narrative, but explicitly in its closing verses, which affirm him as Israel's greatest prophet and leader ever. Despite God's actions at the end of Deuteronomy limiting Moses' ambitions and ending his life, they solidify his unparalleled status. No other figure received a panoramic view of the Promised Land, was escorted to death by God himself, or had their burial place veiled from knowledge until this very day. However, the mystery surrounding the concealment of Moses' burial site challenges earlier biblical traditions that emphasized the importance of honoring and memorializing the graves of Israel's leaders, like Abraham and Jacob. Levi ben Gershon, Ralbag, a prominent thinker from medieval France, offers a provocative explanation for this divine intervention. Revealing Moses' grave might lead future generations to idolize him, akin to how some turn the copper serpent Moses made into an object of worship, as recounted in the Book of Numbers. Ralbag's concerns about Moses worship gain traction when considering Moses' teachings in Deuteronomy chapter 4. Here, Moses warns against idolatry and instructs Israel in negative theology, emphasizing what God is not and what should not be worshipped. He specifically forbids worshiping images of humans, animals, celestial bodies, and natural elements, a directive aimed at preserving monotheism and preventing the deification of figures like Moses himself. Thus, while Moses' hidden burial may seem paradoxical, it aligns with his teachings and ensures that Israel's faith remains focused on God alone, safeguarding against the pitfalls of idolatry across generations. Let's delve into a fascinating puzzle. If you were God and wanted to conceal someone's burial place, how would you do it? Many would echo Moses' words about something being above the heavens or beyond the sea. According to biblical records, God has demonstrated such concealment before. Elijah ascended to heaven with only one witness knowing where, and Jonah famously avoided death at sea. Clearly, when God chooses to hide a body, he succeeds. However, in the case of Moses, Bible scholars believe it is different. Contrary to common belief, the text clearly states where Moses was buried. Deuteronomy chapter 34 begins by stating, "And he buried him in the valley, in the land of Moab, opposite the house of Peor," followed by the mystery that no man knew his burial place to this very day. Some might argue that this description is vague, since Moses was alone during his burial and the agent of burial is ambiguously referred to as he. It might seem his body was effectively hidden. Moreover, the valley mentioned is broad, and it's unclear who knew that Moses was buried there rather than on Mount Nebo. However, these objections fade upon closer examination. First, there should be no uncertainty about which valley is meant for those looking for Moses' grave, as it was mentioned earlier in Deuteronomy as their campsite, and we have been living in the valley opposite the house of Peor. Secondly, one doesn't need to locate a holy man's body to establish a shrine in their honor. Consider the many shrines today, Jewish and otherwise, where it's doubtful the revered saint is actually buried there. The information provided is ample for admirers of Moses to erect a shrine. Even if they didn't know the exact burial site in the valley, they could have built the shrine on nearby Mount Nebo. Ron Wyatt, uncovering biblical treasures. Ron Wyatt didn't just claim to have discovered Moses' tomb. He asserted finding several other biblical sites and artifacts. According to Wyatt, he uncovered Noahs Ark, the mystery surrounding the Ark of the Covenant, a sacred chest said to house the original 10 Commandments, continues to intrigue believers of Judeo-Christian faiths. According to ancient traditions, the Ark is believed to hold not only the tablets inscribed by God, but also Aaron's rod, which transformed into a serpent before the Pharaoh, and a pot of manna, heavenly sustenance during the Israelites' desert journey. According to biblical accounts, the ark is described as a wooden chest overlaid with gold, symbolizing the covenant between God and his people. Among the many contenders claiming possession of the ark is the Ethiopian Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion, asserting that the ark was brought to Aksum for safekeeping by the son of Queen of Sheba and King Solomon. Various churches worldwide, spanning locations from Jordan to the United States, have also put forth their claims. On January 6, 1982, Wyatt made a bold claim. He had discovered the Ark of the Covenant beneath the ancient city of Jerusalem. According to Wyatt, this sacred artifact, which housed the original 10 Commandments, lay buried directly beneath the spot where Jesus Christ was crucified, fulfilling an ancient prophecy. Historically, the Ark of the Covenant had resided in the Holy Temple, also known as Solomon's Temple, after the Israelites settled in the Promised Land following their exodus from Egypt. However, during the Babylonian invasion led by Nebuchadnezzar around 600 years before Jesus' crucifixion, Jerusalem and its temple were razed to the ground, leading to the disappearance of the Ark from historical records. During the Babylonian siege of Jerusalem, the Israelites constructed underground tunnels to move discreetly within the city. Some of these tunnels still exist today, occasionally yielding ancient artifacts. Wyatt proposed that the Ark of the Covenant was hidden in one such underground chamber, sealed and forgotten over time. Wyatt's exploration initially uncovered an altar stone jutting from a cliff face, suggesting the remnants of an early Christian church, possibly built around the 1st century AD. This discovery hinted that early Christians recognized the site's significance. Further investigation revealed 4 holes cut into the stone, believed to be the bases for Roman crucifixion crosses. One hole, slightly elevated, was purportedly where Jesus was crucified between 2 thieves, according to Wyatt. Removing a square-cut stone acting as a plug from one of these holes, Wyatt claimed to find a crack in the bedrock below, described in biblical texts as splitting in sorrow at the moment of Jesus' death. Continuing their excavation, Wyatt's team stumbled upon a network of ancient caves. It was in one of these caves that Wyatt asserted he discovered the Ark of the Covenant. In a 1999 interview shortly before his death, Wyatt recounted the moment of discovery. Inside the cave, he noticed a peculiar black substance dried on the ceiling crack directly above the Ark. Some of this substance had even dripped onto the Ark's outer stone casing, adding to the mystery and significance of his find. Wyatt further claimed that despite taking pictures and videos of the Ark of the Covenant, divine intervention prevented any of this evidence from being successfully captured or preserved. When Wyatt returned to the site to gather more proof, he reportedly encountered 4 angels who informed him that the world was not yet ready to witness this discovery firsthand. However, they hinted that a time would come when all humanity would be subject to a universal religious law. The Noahs Ark Controversy. In 1985, Wyatt partnered with David Fasold, a former merchant marine officer, and Dr. John Baumgardner, a geophysicist, at the site where Wyatt claimed to have found Noah's Ark. Initially collaborating, Fasold and Wyatt eventually parted ways due to disagreements over certain details of the discovery. Dr. Baumgardner, initially cautiously optimistic, eventually concluded that the site did not contain the remains of Noah's Ark. Subsequently, in 1990, an Australian named Dr. Alan Roberts visited Wyatt's site and later founded Ark Search, an organization aimed at funding archaeological digs with Wyatt. Their joint efforts gained global attention in September 1991, when Wyatt, Roberts, and 3 others were kidnapped by Kurdish guerrillas and held captive for 3 weeks. Despite this ordeal, both Wyatt and Roberts continued to promote the site as the potential resting place of Noah's Ark, gaining further publicity through national television appearances that added to the intrigue. Wyatt leveraged these media appearances to discuss his findings, using footage from the site to create a widely circulated video that captivated many Christians and sparked hope that Noah's Ark had finally been discovered. Simultaneously, in early 1992, Dr. Roberts traveled across Australia, delivering lectures on the site's significance. His organization, Ark Search, published a booklet summarizing their evidence and distributed a video recording of his public talks. Despite the enthusiastic efforts and the buzz they generated, a closer examination of the claim revealed that the evidence did not withstand scrutiny. Surveys employing metal detectors uncovered patterns of hotspots indicating high iron content, arranged in lines running both lengthwise and across the site's interior. These iron-rich areas, while initially suggestive, ultimately did not substantiate the claim of discovering Noah's Ark. Using a standard metal detector similar to those used for beachcombing, a long pole with a disc-shaped detector head, researchers discovered scattered hotspots, not arranged in any orderly lines. These hotspots likely indicate objects with high metal content buried within the surface mudflow material. This finding corresponds to the presence of basalt boulders, a common volcanic rock in the area, often weathered and containing iron oxides that trigger positive reactions in metal detectors. In contrast, the surrounding dead mud does not register on the detector. Moreover, repeated surveys with the metal detector confirmed that these hotspots were randomly distributed and did not form any coherent pattern. Despite this, some have incorrectly claimed that these random hotspots support diagrams depicting the internal structure of a boat, such as Noah's Ark. In June-July 1986, Dr. Baumgartner and Dr. William Shea were in Turkey, planning to join Wyatt at the site. However, Wyatt and David Fasold had already visited the site without permission, conducting a brief 30-minute radar scan over only the southernmost part of the boat-shaped formation, known as the prow. When Shea met Wyatt, he received copies of these radar scans, which were later shared with others for analysis. Although a permit for further investigation was eventually granted, local restrictions imposed by the police and military prevented Wyatt, Fasold, and their team from returning with a radar scanner. Consequently, the planned comprehensive radar survey of the entire formation never occurred, at least not under Wyatt and Fasold's supervision. Despite this setback, Wyatt and Roberts proceeded to publish diagrams of the boat-shaped formation, claiming to reveal an internal structure with transverse and longitudinal divisions. They referred to these features as bulkheads and gunnels, citing Fasold's limited 1986 survey to support their assertions. Additionally, Wyatt and Roberts referenced Tom Fenner from Geophysical Survey Systems Incorporated in New Hampshire, who reportedly examined the 1986 radar scans and concluded that the formation was an artificial boat. The search for truth. Some question Wyatt's assertions about Noah's Ark due to his controversial claims about other discoveries. Most notably, he insisted on having seen the Ark of the Covenant in a cave beneath the cross, claiming DNA analysis confirmed it belonged to someone born of a virgin. Critics also cite Wyatt's unconventional methods and lack of formal training in archaeology or geology. He was a registered nurse anesthetist. Some suggest his enthusiasm led him to grasp any evidence supporting his deep religious beliefs. Opponents of Wyatt argue over differing theories about the Ark's location, favoring Ararat's Peak. Current research centers on a remote 15,500-foot area where a mysterious anomaly has been photographed by satellites. Experts are using advanced space technology to discern its composition based on reflected sunlight, hoping to settle the debate. Skepticism towards Wyatt extends to past sensational claims, like George Hagiopian's 1905 assertions of walking on the Ark's deck as a child, which have proven unsubstantiated. Moreover, some outright doubt the existence of Noah's Ark, demanding unequivocal proof. For these critics, no amount of evidence would sway their disbelief. Ultimately, assessing Wyatt's claims isn't simply about faith versus science, but about scrutinizing the solidity of the evidence presented and seeking the most logical interpretation. Regardless of scientific conclusions about Wyatt's findings at Deuteronomy, the ultimate truth and significance of the Ark narrative transcend any physical evidence he purportedly discovered. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. In the heart of the arid Sinai Desert, under a relentless sun that seemed to amplify the weight of centuries past, archaeologists gathered around an astonishing find. Moses' tomb, sealed for 2,000 years, lay before them. The open sarcophagus, intricately carved with ancient symbols, exuded an aura of profound reverence and mystery. Dr. Ella Hartley, a A seasoned archaeologist known for her meticulous approach stood at the forefront. Her eyes sparkled with a mix of disbelief and scholarly excitement as she surveyed the scene. Beside her, Dr. Michael Hayes, a passionate historian, feverishly documented every detail. Around the open sarcophagus, a team of scientists meticulously cataloged artifacts, a weathered staff that might have belonged to Moses, scrolls containing Hebrew scriptures, and pottery fragments bearing hieroglyphs that hinted at the Exodus story. The air buzzed with scholarly debate and the hum of instruments analyzing ancient residues. "This changes everything we know about early Hebrew history," Ella whispered, her voice filled with awe. Michael nodded, unable to tear his gaze away from the artifacts. "To think we'd uncover such tangible evidence of Moses. It's beyond words." As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the desert, Ella glanced at the headline on her tablet. "Scientists finally found Moses' tomb that was sealed for 2,000 years. A fitting title for a discovery that would rewrite history books and ignite imaginations for generations to come. Unearthing Sodom and Gomorrah. Wyatt claimed another significant discovery, pinpointing the exact location of Sodom and Gomorrah, infamous cities from the Bible wiped by divine wrath due to their profound wickedness. According to biblical accounts, these cities were annihilated by a rain of fire and sulfur, brimstone, sent by God. Wyatt asserted he found the ruins of these ancient cities near the southeastern shore of the Dead Sea. Wyatt's assertion rested on several compelling pieces of evidence he uncovered, which he believed substantiated the biblical narrative of the city's fiery demise. One key piece was the discovery of extensive areas covered in ash. He interpreted this ash as remnants of buildings and structures burned during the cataclysmic event. The ash's remarkable purity and light color suggested to Wyatt that it resulted from an intensely hot fire, aligning with the biblical description of divine punishment. Another crucial find was small, round sulfur balls embedded in the ashen rock. Wyatt emphasized their unusual purity and scattered distribution across the site. Sulfur, known for its high combustion temperature, matched the biblical account of brimstone raining down from the heavens. The presence of these sulfur balls added weight to Wyatt's claim, as their formation and distribution seemed to correspond with the catastrophic event described in the Bible. Moreover, Wyatt identified faint, indistinct shapes in the rock and ash that resembled outlines of ancient structures, walls, streets, and buildings. He interpreted these shapes as the preserved remains of the city's infrastructure, further reinforcing his belief in their identification as Sodom and Gomorrah. Despite Wyatt's fervent convictions and the intriguing evidence he presented, his claims are met with skepticism from mainstream archaeologists and geologists. Critics argue that natural geological processes around the Dead Sea, which has been geologically active for millions of years, could account for the formations Wyatt identified. Moreover, Wyatt's unconventional methods and lack of systematic archaeological practices undermine the credibility of his findings in the eyes of the scholarly community. Wyatt's findings lacked peer review by independent experts, a standard practice crucial for validating archaeological discoveries. Without such scrutiny, Wyatt's interpretations remain contentious within the academic community. Additionally, geologists contest Wyatt's assertions regarding sulfur balls and ash deposits. They argue that these features could be explained by natural geological processes rather than by a miraculous or divine event. The Dead Sea region, known for its unique geological formations and mineral deposits including sulfur, offers plausible natural explanations for the phenomena Wyatt attributed to divine intervention. From the Red Sea crossing to Mount Sinai. Beyond these controversies, Wyatt also asserted that he had identified the exact location where the Israelites crossed the Red Sea during the Exodus. According to biblical accounts, Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt, and when they reached the Red Sea, God parted the waters for their escape from pursuing Egyptian forces. Wyatt proposed that this miraculous crossing occurred at the Gulf of Aqaba, specifically pinpointing Nuweiba Beach as the crossing site. To support his claim, Wyatt and his team conducted underwater dives in the Gulf of Aqaba. They reported discovering coral-encrusted objects which they identified as chariot wheels and other artifacts. Wyatt interpreted these findings as evidence of the drowned Egyptian army's chariots. Additionally, he claimed to have found fragments of human and horse bones, along with other items he believed belonged to the ancient army. Wyatt highlighted an underwater land bridge at the crossing site, suggesting it facilitated the Israelites' passage when the waters parted. The coral growth, according to Wyatt, had preserved the shapes of these artifacts, initially making them difficult to recognize. Despite Wyatt's assertions, skepticism persists among experts. Critics argue that Wyatt's findings lack verification by independent archaeologists or underwater specialists. They contend that the coral formations observed could be natural and not necessarily remnants of chariots, thus questioning the validity of Wyatt's interpretations. Ron Wyatt continued to astonish with another extraordinary claim after the Red Sea crossing. He asserted that he had discovered the true Mount Sinai, the sacred peak where Moses received the Ten Commandments. Contrary to the traditionally accepted site in the Sinai Peninsula, Wyatt identified Jebel al-Lawz in Saudi Arabia as the actual Mount Sinai. He based his assertion on various features found in this mountainous region that he believed matched descriptions in the Bible. Among the evidence Wyatt cited was a large split rock near Jebel al-Lawz. According to his interpretation, this rock resembled the one Moses struck to bring forth water for the Israelites during their desert journey. Additionally, Wyatt highlighted other geographical elements in the area, such as rock formations and valleys, which he argued aligned with the biblical narrative of Moses leading the Israelites through the wilderness. Despite presenting photographic and video evidence to support his claims, Wyatt's discoveries have not undergone independent archaeological or geological scrutiny. Consequently, many scholars and archaeologists remain highly skeptical of his assertion regarding Mount Sinai. They emphasize that the traditional site in the Sinai Peninsula holds centuries of historical and religious significance, supported by a wealth of cultural and archaeological evidence. Relocating Mount Sinai to Saudi Arabia, therefore, lacks compelling corroboration from mainstream archaeological research. What do you think about the quest to find Moses' tomb? Let us know your opinion in the comments below.